Hey, everybody out there in YouTube land. Jake of the OneManBand is back again, and welcome to yet another RWBY review for Volume 5, Episode 5, Necessary Sacrifice. Now, I don't know about you, but when I saw that title, I instantly thought, oh, things are gonna get real intense now, and in a way they have. This episode starts off with us, once again, going back to Menagerie with Blake and Sun. Now, while Gira and Kali are probably taking care of some manners at the actual house, Sun and Blake have decided to go out among the populace of Menagerie to try to get signatures and volunteers to aid in the protection of Haven Academy in Mistral. Sun has a lot of confidence that they're going to be able to get some signatures, and Blake seems to actually like his enthusiasm, so I'm real excited to see them actually try to get some. However, it almost seems that Blake is a bit nervous to ask this of her people, and I don't know if it's just the way that the scenes were set up, but it seems that she kind of goes to literally everyone on Menagerie to ask if they will join in the fight. While Sun, it looks like he goes to lumber workers, physical laborers, and really big burly guys that look like they can handle themselves in a fight. Yet, it does not matter who they ask. Whoever they ask will not sign the petition and will not join the fight. Sun doesn't understand the fundamentals of why nobody will join, and we get a form of backstory and an idea of how the people in Menagerie actually think. A majority of the people that live in Menagerie, who aren't the ones that were born there, went to Menagerie because they were done dealing with the rest of the world. They didn't want to deal with humanity's problems anymore, so they went to Menagerie pretty much to run away from their problems. A lot like Blake kind of does. And so they don't want to be bothered with, dealing with other people's problems when they won't really affect them. Of course, the citizens of Menagerie don't see the vast picture. Blake and Sun talk about how if Haven falls, the situation for Faunus all across Remnant are going to get worse. But to be honest, I can't blame the Faunus of Menagerie for not wanting to go and fight. For one, we don't even know if any of them are competent fighters. I mean, Blake does say that Faunus in today's society pretty much have to learn to survive and fight if they want to survive. But you got to admit that some Faunus aren't going to be as skilled as other ones. And besides, it's the whole idea of self-preservation. These are simple people. They've come to Menagerie to lead a simple life, and they don't want to put their necks out on the line for people who may not even like them back for it. Everyone is really out to save their own skin and to keep their own skin alright. Which I guess is admirable for pretty much anyone to have a survival instinct, but it kind of sucks for our heroes when we know an attack on Haven is coming, and nobody's willing to go and help defend it. And once again, Sun tries to prod Blake about her past and her past with Adam. Yet, when Blake seems to recede back into herself at his askings, he decides to drop the issue. But something great happens in this scene. Blake actually decides to talk about her past and open up to Sun. She goes on to say that she can dedicate one word to help describe somebody. And with Adam, although his word description has changed over the years, she has decided that the word that best describes him is spite. And spite's definition is the desire to hurt, annoy, or to offend purposefully. So Adam is not hatred or anything like that, it's just spite. He has an inward desire to hurt people and to put people low who he believes have made his life miserable. It almost seems that the way Blake puts it, Adam feels like the world has turned against him, and like the world itself did something to Adam to make him this way. Of course, I have no idea what this might be. Maybe his parents were killed by humans. Maybe someone stepped on his foot when he was a kid. Maybe a huntsman accidentally knocked over his ice cream cone when he was like 5 years old. He just seems to have this spiteful, inward hatred towards humanity and all that they stand for. And Blake fears that Ilya is going to get to that point as well. She may not be there now, but it's only a matter of time. And then Blake goes on to talk about a little bit of Ilya's backstory on how she's a chameleon faunus, and she could have blended in with human society if she wanted to. And then her parents were killed in a mining accident, and then she went on to join the White Fang, and it was that conviction that she could have just remained in human society, and nobody would have known the wiser, but she still joined the White Fang, and Blake admired that conviction about her. Now, let it be known that pretty much everything that Blake says about Ilya's backstory is also stated in the character short, and I almost feel like this is what happens in this episode was needed. Ilya's backstory needed to be talked about, but since we already knew it from the character short, it didn't hit us as hard as it probably should have. In one of the previous episodes, episode 4, I believe, Ilya, when she interrupted Gira's speech, she talked about how her parents were murdered and let down by humanity. If we didn't know what we knew from the character short, then we would have been like, what do you mean her family was killed? What does that mean? Oh, that must mean something. And then with this episode, we will learn more about her past and be like, oh, okay, her parents died in a mining accident, and she probably holds humanity and the dust companies responsible. Instead, we already know this information from the character short, and so it just hits flat, and it just doesn't hit home with me. I think, once again, if the Blake character short had been about Blake rather than Ilya, this reveal at this point in the episode would have hit us a lot harder and given us the insight into Ilya that we really needed. Now, Blake knows that Ilya is a threat, and she knows that she is very close to turning to Adam's side of things fully, but it's still the fact that Ilya was once her friend, and she wants to help her friend. And it's right here when she drops an idea that I absolutely loved. What she is going to try to do with Ilya is what Sun has done for Blake. Even though Blake didn't want Sun around, didn't want his help, didn't desire his help, he was still there to help her through thick and thin, no matter what, and he was always there as a friend. And she wants to be that to Ilya, to help bring Ilya pretty much back from the dark side. And it's here that, hallelujah, Blake, you are back! You are back to being a good character. Oh my gosh, it has been so long. Ever since the end of Volume 3, I had lost faith in Blake. She had just regressed as a character, and especially through Volume 4, with her complete animosity and, like, hatred almost towards Sun. I felt sorry for Sun, and I just hated Blake. But here, this is the character growth that we needed. She's starting to reopen herself up to Sun, which I'm really glad that she's reopening up to him, because he was the one that she first really opened up to in Volume 1. And now she's saying that Sun has helped her in such a way that she wants to help others in that same way. She wants to help Ilya in that same way. And so that shows that she's grown as a character, and that she's willing to discuss and hear other people's ideas and perspectives to help her own. And so with that, I was so excited when I saw this episode, because I was just like, yay! Blake is coming back! She's coming back to the light! I don't have to not like her anymore! She's coming back into being a good and admirable character, and I just completely love it. And with that, we go and check back up with Team Ranger and Oscar. Oscar is training a little bit more with his cane, and RWBY comes in to tell him that dinner is ready. And when RWBY makes a comment about how much he's been training and how easily the whole concept of combat has come to him, he states that it feels like he's had this cane for a lifetime. not a couple of weeks, and not just a lifetime, multiple lifetimes, which means that the muscle memory and the mind melding of Ozpin and Oscar is actively taking place, and he's making great strides in his skill. And we also learn here that he had really no previous fighting experience, save for fighting off the small occasional Grimm at his farm, which I think is actually really cool. It shows that common everyday people have the capacity to fight off the creatures of Grimm, but when they come in numbers and when they come in larger and more dangerous variants, then that's when you have to call a huntsman. I'm guessing that Oscar would have to like fight them off with probably some form of rifle or a shovel maybe, but probably not running up to them with like a knife and like shanking a Grimm. I don't think he'd be fighting that kind of style. And it's here, my friends, that we get another callback to Penny when RWBY says that Oscar will be combat ready soon. And we can tell that her saying that, it takes her a moment to realize what she just said, and it actively affects her. And I think we get some really good moments in this scene. We see that Oscar, although he's always felt like he was meant for something more than just being a farmhand, he never asked to have this. He never asked to have such a giant weight put on his shoulders. The whole idea of having to save humanity, save the world from some big threat like Salem. He never asked for this. And he asked RWBY, how can anyone handle this? How can anyone handle being a huntsman, knowing what they know, knowing that there's such a big bad out there? How can she have such confidence and be so happy in this situation? Because remember, throughout this entire ordeal, RWBY has kept a happy and chipper mood throughout it all, no matter what has come their way. And we actually see some actual character depth to RWBY here, and I absolutely love it. RWBY goes on to say that yes, she is scared. She's scared at the concept of everything, but she knows that it's because she's scared and because she knows that she can do something about it, that she has to do something about it. She tells Oscar that at the Battle of Beacon, she lost two very good friends, Pyrrha and Penny, and she said that they were some of the nicest, strongest, and most passionate people that she had ever met. No matter what, they always tried to see the good in everything. And it was their confidence and their conviction that RWBY is holding on to. Because she knows if she would have died at the Battle of Beacon, if she would have taken one of their places and they were here instead, they would be doing the same for her. And it's this conviction and this selfless, just ideal of the huntsman that RWBY is. As Blake said earlier in the episode, RWBY is the personification of purity. That is the word that Blake uses to describe RWBY, and it's RWBY's purity and her pure desire to help and to save and to be the hero that the huntsman and humanity needs. That's the conviction that keeps her going no matter what. And although she may have some quirks here and there, and she may not be the best or the strongest or the most competent, she has a spark in her that defies her as someone who's gonna be able to get people through this and to convince people to go through this with her. She has such a conviction with her. And I believe that this is really, really good. This is why this episode is such a favorite of mine. We get good character growth from Blake previously, and right here we get character depth to RWBY that we haven't really seen all that much. We knew that she was, you know, she had conviction and she knew what she wanted to be a huntsman back in Volume 1, and kinda in Volume 2 when Oobleck asked the members of Team RWBY why they decided to become huntsmen, and RWBY's answer was the most pure. But here we get another rehash of that, and we see that through the sacrifice of her friends and the times that she has gone through, she has developed as a character and used those sacrifices, used what has happened to her in the past to help mold her character, and has molded those convictions to her character so she can continue to keep moving forward. And it's there that I believe is going to be the moniker for RWBY throughout the entire series. Not RWBY the show, but RWBY the characters. No matter what, she's still going to keep moving forward. She's still going to keep a smile on her face. Even if she has to cry for a little bit or be angry sometimes, she's still going to go back to being that happy, passionate person. And I'm so glad we finally got some character development, some character growth, character depth with RWBY, because we sorely needed it. And, my friends, we finally come to the third and final scene of this episode, which I took to actually classifying as the necessary sacrifice part of the episode. We join Corsic and Finnick as they have just finished getting through a message with someone, which we later find out is Adam. And as they're discussing the situation, we get some cool imagery of their abode. And there are two items that I want to point to that's in their, I guess, shrine, if you will, that really caught my eye. One is the portrait that seems to be the grand center of the room, which is a hooded, fox-like faunus figure, which bears a striking resemblance to Corsic and Finnick's garb. However, this figure's face is obscured by shadow. And the other piece that I want to point to is a statue, a lot of the same way, a fox-type faunus in a robe moniker that wields a scythe. Now, I'm not sure if these two are connected, but perhaps the statue wielding the scythe is some form of faunus moniker for the Grim Reaper, some sort of a entity that comes in and will claim the souls of dead faunus to, take to heaven or take to hell maybe, or whatever the afterlife is. And the portrait makes me think, is this possibly one of the original founders of the faunus race or faunus society in itself? And he's held to such reverence that maybe this figure is a hero in faunus society, and maybe even like a Jesus-type figure. Is this figure supposed to be commemorating some form of savior, or is it supposed to be some form of person from the past? Artwork is such an important and integral part of a society, and I would absolutely love just to go back and look at this room and try to break down everything in it. So maybe I'll do that in a future video, but right now, let's talk about what actually happens in this part. Ilya enters the chamber, and Corsic and Finnick tell her that Khan has been taken care of, and Adam is now the grand leader of the White Fang. Now, although the death of Sienna Khan looks like to not sit well with Ilya, she claims that it was a necessary sacrifice for the betterment of faunus kind, which Corsic and Finnick agree to. Yet, this also poses a problem. Menagerie does not know yet of the situation in Mistral. Menagerie does not know that Sienna Khan has been killed and usurped by Adam. And when they do learn of that, after what Gira and the Belladonnas have talked to the people of Menagerie about what Adam was planning to do, it is not going to go well with the people of Menagerie that Adam is now in control of the White Fang. So, they decide that actions must be taken in order to ease the faunus kind into this new transition. The White Fang is changing, and with change comes pain, comes growth, and comes a lot of sorrow. The Belladonnas are the main antagonist and the main obstacle of Adam's rule in Menagerie, and so they must be eliminated. Ilya doesn't take too well to this idea due to the fact that Blake is one of her best friends, or was a best friend to her. However, Corsic and Finnick state that they want Ilya to simply draw Blake away from her parents, as her brothers and sisters will take care of the dirty work. Blake was stated that she wants to be kept alive. She is to be kept alive, but Gira and Kali, they are to be silenced. They're to be eliminated, and to make way for Adam's rule in Menagerie. if there's no opposing voices in Mistral, then Adam and the White Fang will naturally usurp the power vacuum that's left behind with the Belladonna's death. And although the people of Menagerie might see Gira as a form of martyr against such a tyrannical and terrible force that is the White Fang now, the people of Menagerie will learn to fear the White Fang. They'll learn to fear what it means to be under their rule. Like, if you talk out of line, if you betray us, you're gonna end up like Gira and Kali Belladonna. And after Ilya leaves, after accepting the mission, and being told that the death of the Belladonnas is once again another necessary sacrifice, Corsican Finnick play back the message that Adam sent to them. And it's clearly here that we see that Adam is completely unhinged. He is not in a stable mental state. He cannot stand the thought of the Belladonna standing in his way, and that they have been a thorn in his side for too long. And he almost looks like he's about to seep into rage or seep into sorrow and start crying until he states that they must be eliminated, but Blake must be taken alive. He has a promise to settle, which that promise is, of course, that he's going to destroy everything that Blake holds dear in this world. That, of course, being her family. Now, the unhinged state that Corsican Finnick see Adam in, they obviously take note of this, and they even ask themselves, is he the correct ruler that the White Fang needs? Or really want, but they state that he is what they have right now. And I believe that once a better candidate for leadership of the White Fang comes up, Corsican Finnick will put them in power and take Adam out. Corsican Finnick aren't so much loyal to Adam at this point. They're loyal to the fundamentals of the White Fang, which once again brings me back to that portrait. It almost seems like that portrait is a god to them, and that portrait is a stand-in for what Corsican Finnick's White Fang really stands for. So, is this person in the mural some sort of Faunus hero, like I said before, who stood up against human tyranny and was able actually to etch out a good life for Faunus everywhere? And maybe that's what they're trying to achieve? I mean, they're using Adam right now, but once Adam's usefulness is used up, I mean, they're obviously gonna go for something better. And speaking of something better, another Faunus enters the room who goes by the name of Yuma. And we learn that this Yuma was sent to take out Gira Belladonna's messenger who he had sent to Mistral, warning them about the Haven attack. And that this messenger now sits at the bottom of the sea. Mistral does not know an attack is coming. Mistral does not know that help is coming. And, well, the world grows a bit darker. Another big thing to mention in this episode is that we see that there are new types of Faunus. We don't just see the reptilian and the mammalian right here. We see that there are aquatic type Faunus that have fish-like attributes, whether that be fins on their forearms or some sort of fin-like appendages that pose for ears. And is it possible that there is a type of Faunus, aquatic Faunus, that has gills as well as lungs and can breathe underwater? As we saw, part of the marketplace in Menagerie was actually in the bay. So, these aquatic type Faunus could be in their natural environment, if you will, and they also seem to be very agile and very good swimmers. And another thing that we learn about the new types of Faunus is that there are aviatory type Faunus. Now, we haven't seen a Birdman Faunus yet, but Yuma, the agent that was sent to take out Gira's messenger, is a bat-type Faunus, as we see that he has leathery-type wings on his back. So we know that there are some Faunus out there that have the ability to fly and can probably be very good scouts and recon people for their appropriate masters. This episode in itself didn't have any action, and it had just a lot of talking. Not so much a lot of symbolism or things to break down, unless you want to count Corsican Finnic Sanctuary, but besides that, we were just learning, relearning things that we already knew, or getting good character development with some of the characters that needed it. Overall, this episode was not probably the most exciting, but I believe was one of the most necessary, especially for Blake and RWBY. Hey everybody out there in YouTube land, thanks for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed. Be sure to subscribe if you feel inclined to, like and favorite if you enjoyed. Check out some other videos that I've done, links down in the description taking you to them. And until next time, my friends, I want you to be a good person, tip your waitresses, keep moving forward. I'll see you guys next time I'm out there in YouTube land. I'll see you then. Yeah!